Imagine being born into a family where stepping off a plane is never just a normal arrival. It is a security operation, a briefing, and a headline waiting to happen. For Prince Harry, that reality does not end at the border of the United Kingdom. It follows his wife and their 2 children, even though they live on a different continent. For years, the public story has sounded simple. Harry wants special treatment, Meghan refuses to come back to Britain. But behind that noise is a quiet paper trail. Threat assessments, committee minutes, legal judgments. All circling one difficult question: is it actually safe for Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet to visit the United Kingdom? Welcome to Royally Misrepresented, the channel where emotion steps aside and evidence drives the story. In this episode, we are looking at Harry's ongoing battle over protection when he returns to Britain and how that battle shapes Meghan and the children's relationship with the country he still calls home. We will look at who really controls royal and VIP security, what the phrase threat level means in this context, why Harry lost a major court case yet still pushed for a fresh assessment, and what that might mean for future visits by Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet. No drama, just timelines, law, and context. At first glance, this might sound like a technical dispute between one prince and one government, but 3 things make the stakes much higher. First, this is about physical safety. The death of Harry's mother in Paris was not just a news event, it was the defining trauma of his teenage years. He has said repeatedly that he connects aggressive media pursuit with real-world danger. For him, a downgrade in official protection is not a line in a budget. It feels like a question of survival. Second, it is about family connection. Archie and Lilibet are royal grandchildren with titles and a grandfather on the throne, yet they have spent very little time in the United Kingdom. Their most recent visit was during the late Queen's Jubilee in 2022. Harry has warned openly that without reliable security, he cannot bring them back and that they may grow up without real memories of his home country. Third, it is about precedent, how the British state handles protection for a high-profile former working royal in the digital age sets an example for the future. If a king's son cannot secure a clear assessment of his risk, what message does that send to other public figures trying to change their role? So this is not just a story about Harry's feelings. It is a story about how modern institutions balance cost, risk, and duty when a person steps out of their traditional box. Part 1. How Harry lost automatic protection. To understand the current moment, we need to go back to the beginning of 2020. When Harry and Meghan stepped down as senior working royals, they moved out of the small circle of people automatically covered by round-the-clock, publicly funded police protection in Britain. Protection for royalty and high-profile figures is not decided by the king. It is managed by an expert group known as the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures, often shortened in commentary to RAVEC. This committee includes senior Home Office officials, police, and security specialists. It weighs up intelligence, cost, and precedent, and then decides who receives protection and in what form. On 28 February 2020, RAVEC decided that automatic police protection for Harry and Meghan in Britain would end from the end of March that year, when their transition out of royal duties took full effect. From that point, any protection for Harry during visits would be decided case by case by the committee. There would no longer be an assumption of continuous cover. For the government, this was presented as a proportionate response to a change in status. Harry was no longer carrying out full-time public duties. For Harry, it felt different. He has argued that his risk level did not disappear simply because his job description changed, and that his past military service, his high profile, and the hostility directed at his family still create a serious target profile. In 2021, he took the dispute to court by way of judicial review, arguing that the process RAVEC used was unfair and failed to give proper weight to the threats he faces. He also separately challenged an earlier decision that he could not personally hire police officers for his visits, even if he paid for them himself. That earlier challenge was rejected in 2023. In February 2024, the High Court dismissed his main claim. The judge found that RAVEC's decision to change his security arrangements after he stepped back from royal duties was lawful. The court accepted that the committee had good reason to depart from some aspects of its usual policy, given his move overseas. Harry appealed. That appeal was heard in April, and the Court of Appeal gave its judgment in early May 2025. Once again, the court sided with the government. They ruled that the decision-making process was not irrational or unlawful, and that the committee was entitled to reach the view it did. This is an important detail. The courts did not say that Harry faces no risk. They simply said that the way the state chose to deal with that risk was within the range of legally acceptable options. After that ruling, Harry told interviewers that he could not see a world in which he would bring his wife and children back to Britain under the current arrangements. He spoke about the sadness of imagining his children missing out on parts of his life there, but said that their safety had to come first. Part 2. What threat level means in practice. So what exactly are these committees looking at when they decide who needs protection? In this context, threat level is not a feeling. It is a structured assessment built from different kinds of information. Security agencies look at specific threats and credible plots, patterns of anger or hostility around a person, the impact of any past incidents, the visibility of that person in the news cycle. Harry's profile includes several sensitive elements. He is a well-known royal who served in a combat role in Afghanistan. His military work and his later comments about that service have been widely discussed and sometimes distorted. He is also part of a couple at the center of intense culture war arguments. Their interviews, their decision to step back, and his memoir have all generated strong reactions. Supporters see them as whistleblowers. Critics see them as disloyal or attention-seeking. The online abuse aimed at Meghan in particular has been documented by researchers and journalists over several years. All of that feeds into the question security professionals must answer. Does this combination of profile and hostility generate enough risk to justify state protection? If so, at what level and in what form? When RAVEC downgraded Harry's status in 2020, the conclusion was that case-by-case arrangements would be enough. Harry and his team argue that this leaves unacceptable gaps, especially when he travels with Meghan and the children. They say private bodyguards cannot simply replace trained police officers because they do not have access to the same intelligence or legal powers. Concerns are not theoretical. In September 2025, reports surfaced that Harry had experienced 2 close encounters with a known stalker during a visit to London, one at a charity awards event and one near a research center. The woman had reportedly targeted the couple before including on a visit to Nigeria. The incidents raised fresh questions about how much uniformed support was present at those appearances. From Harry's perspective, the conclusion is simple. If his own movements in Britain can attract that kind of attention, he does not feel able to bring his young children into that environment without a predictable official framework. Part 3. Why Meghan and the children stay away. Since the move to North America, Harry has returned to Britain several times alone for funerals, coronations, charity events, and court appearances. Meghan has returned only rarely, and Archie and Lilibet have visited even less. Their most visible trip was during the Platinum Jubilee in 2022, when the family visited privately, and baby Lilibet met her great-grandmother at Windsor. Those images carried a lot of emotional weight, a child born in California meeting the monarch, whose childhood nickname she carries. But that symbolic moment did not turn into regular visits. Part of the reason is the climate of coverage. In sections of the British and international press, Meghan is still described in sharply negative terms. Her every appearance is analyzed for supposed snubs or missteps online. The hostility is often harsher, with racism and misogyny mixed in. For any parent, the idea of walking back into a country where you are discussed like that changes the calculation. For a mother of 2 young children, it is not just about whether you can physically keep them safe, it is about the wider environment you are choosing to place them in. From the outside, critics will argue that Meghan and Harry could simply choose to visit more often. Supporters will argue that staying away is an act of responsible parenting. The reality is more complex. It is a mix of security advice, personal history, media, climate, and unresolved family tension. Security is not the only factor, but as long as it remains unsettled, it is a major one. Part 4. The new security review, why it matters. After losing his court challenge in May 2025, Harry did not suddenly accept the situation as fixed. Instead, he wrote to the new Home Secretary, asking for a fresh formal assessment of his risk and of the protection his family might reasonably need when they visit. In early December, reports in several outlets, including the BBC, Sky News, and major newspapers, confirmed that the Home Office had ordered a new threat assessment for the first time since 2020. Officials confirmed that Harry's security arrangements are under review by the Royal and VIP Executive Committee and its Risk Management Board. This matters for three reasons. First, it acknowledges that risk is not static. The world of 2025 is not the world of 2020. The political climate has shifted. His public profile has evolved, and online threats can intensify after each new event. Second, it shows that even after winning in court, the government is willing to look again at the practical question of how he should be protected. That does not guarantee any particular outcome, but it means the file is open, not closed. Third, it creates the possibility of a clearer framework going forward. Right now, Harry must give around 30 days' notice before a visit so the police can decide what support to provide. The new review could recommend a more predictable baseline level of protection for him and for visits with his family, even if each trip still involves some tailoring. Public commentary will likely reduce this to a simple win or loss story. If protection is increased, some will say he demanded and received special treatment. If nothing changes, others will say he has been rejected again. In reality, what is being weighed is a technical judgment about risk, resources, and precedent based on information the public will never see in full. Part 5. What this could mean for future visits. If the new assessment concludes that Harry does merit a stable, higher level of protection in Britain, one practical consequence is obvious. It becomes easier for him to bring Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet more often. That might mean more frequent short visits for family events, private time with their grandfather and other relatives, or simply quieter trips that are not centered on big public moments. It would not erase the other issues. The family rift still exists. The media climate will not transform overnight. The couple have established lives and work in the United States. But clarity on protection would remove one major barrier that Harry himself has named. It would shift the question from, is it safe enough to travel at all, to is this the right time and for what purpose? If the review results in little or no change, the message is also clear. The state will have confirmed that case by case, decisions are the only model on offer. It does not make visits impossible, but it keeps uncertainty high and leaves Harry and Meghan to shoulder more of the risk calculation themselves. For viewers, the key insight is this: the argument is not only about one man wanting perks. It is about how a modern monarchy and a modern security system respond when a well-known figure chooses a different path and still carries a heavy threat profile. If this kind of measured breakdown helps you see beyond the usual headlines, tap subscribe and turn on notifications for Royally Misrepresented. In the comments, I would like to hear your view. Do you think Harry is asking for reasonable protection given his history and profile, or do you feel that once someone steps away from public duty, they should accept much lower official support? Share your thoughts, and please keep the conversation thoughtful and respectful. This channel is for people who want understanding, not just sides. Security committees, threat assessments, judicial reviews. These can sound like distant technical phrases, but at the center of this story is a family trying to balance heritage with safety and duty with private life. A father who remembers what can happen when media pressure and security decisions collide. A mother weighing what kind of country she wants her children to experience. And two young children who did not choose any of this, but will live with the consequences. Whether you feel close to them or not, their situation raises wider questions about how we protect high-profile people in a digital age and what is owed to the children born into those lives. This is Royally Misrepresented. Thank you for watching and for choosing clarity over heat. Until next time.